Well, thanks so much for having me. As you guys seen, we're gonna talk about Spartan today. And it's pretty much an experiment I started to give you guys a glimpse of what the future of Angular development could look like. Yeah, so let's just dive right into it. What is Spartan? Well, it's actually a collection of full stack technologies that provide end-to-end type safety. And I mean, we're at Angular Tiny Conf, so of course it's built around Angular. Um, so let's see. Well, let's just look right at it. What does Angular have to do with like old Greek warriors? Like not that much, but if you don't look too closely, you actually see that Spartan is actually an acronym for all the technologies I used in this little experiment. Um, Starts with Supabase as the database provider, Prisma as the integration between the database and our server, uh, Angular, the front-end development we all love so much, and then to integrate between Angular and the server, we're actually going to use something called TRPC. We're going to style our website with Tailwind, which I also love, and then very excited. This is all powered by Analog, which is an amazing meta framework, and I think Brandon's actually going to talk about it later. Um, and then if you're serious about developing TypeScript application, of course, you're going to put everything into an NX workspace. So before I dive into each of these technologies and kind of give you my reasoning of why I think they deserve to be part of the Spartan stack, I want to share quickly the motivation of like why I started this project and started playing around with it. And it's actually a twofold answer. So one big question is server-side rendering, and it's all the hype right now. In 2023, you can't think about like application development without server-side rendering anymore. And if we look at the React, which in the React world, Next.js is so popular. It pretty much goes hand in hand. If you look at the React documentation, they actually suggest using Next as like the meta framework of your choice if you want to build a production ready application. So I went to the Next.js website, and of course, right there on the website, it's client and server rendering as one of the core features of it. But I didn't stop there. I also checked out the Vue documentation, and Vue actually recommends to use Nuxt um, to take your app from their example to a production-ready SSR application. So looked on the Nuxt website, and right there, on-demand rendering, one of the core features of Nuxt. So I went to the Angular website, and we all know Angular has Angular Universal. Um, Angular has Angular Universal right now. They support server-side rendering for a long time, actually, but as you'll see, well, it's a little hidden on the Angular website. There is no standalone website for Angular Universal. And if you go to the Angular website, you have to search a little bit. You can actually see it on the bottom left of my picture here, that there is server-side rendering. And it's not, yeah, it's just not, it doesn't feel like it's front and center of Angular right now. So, but what if we had Nuxt for Angular? Well, spoiler, we actually do. With Analog, which is an amazing meta framework that Brandon Roberts created, we have something like Nuxt, something like Next for Angular right now. So this is where Spartan kind of like comes in and says, okay, so we have something like Nuxt and Next, and something that fuses like Angular development with server-side development. So what if we took it one step further and made this like experience of developing and took it all the way to end-to-end type safety. So seems like it's not playing the gifts here, but pretty much if you see here, it's from the TRPC website, which pretty much if you make a change on the server side in TRPC without even saving your file, those changes are going to propagate to your client, and you're actually going to get a compile time error, um, like telling you, okay, for example, you're changing your input from message to name. In your client, you're going to have to change your API call and provide message as the name as the input instead of message. So that's kind of like what I wanted for Angular too. And that's kind of like where this whole like experiment started. And then I just like got my hands dirty and started developing. That's ultimately the stack I came up with. Is this. So as I said before, if you're serious about TypeScript development, you start with an NX workspace. Exactly what I did. I love working with NX. It's super powerful. I'm going to go into more detail later, but everything is inside of an NX workspace. Then on the left side, we have the client, which is powered by Angular, which is like definitely my favorite framework, and all you guys here probably share that view in some sort of way. And then on in the middle, we have the server, which is actually powered by analog. I think Brandon's probably going to go into more detail on what actually powers it, um, like under the hood. And then you see that little arrow on the bottom going from the server to the client. Actually, analog is server-side rendering your Angular application. Um, and then how do you fetch data? How do you exchange data? Like once you actually interact with the client, well, that's where TRPC comes in, and yeah, you actually see you're gonna get your data through TRPC. You're gonna fetch your data through TRPC. Um, Same integration we want from our server to our database. I actually decided to go with Supabase as a database. I'm a big fan of SQL or SQL or however you want to call it. Kind of like my bread and butter in my daily work too. I love just actually writing the queries too. But what if it could be type safe? That was kind of like the thinking. Imagine you have a database interaction that's type safe. And again, the TypeScript ecosystem is absolutely amazing. There's tools like that. And the one I picked for this stack is Prisma. And I'm gonna dive into that later too. But as you see, from the database all the way to the client, we're gonna have a type safe experience. Um, so let's look a little closer at all the tools I picked. And as I said, start with NX. It's a monorepo tooling. It has powerful plugins. We actually wrote a little NX plugin for analog that lets you set up an analog application in your NX workspace, and pretty much gives you everything you need. And on top of that, it's also smart enough to figure out if you run different commands or if you run a build and you haven't changed anything, it's going to cache that, and you get instant, like you get that cache restored back instantly, which just saves so much time. If you think about continuous integration or continuous deployment, like it's super powerful tool. And even better, it supports VS Code and WebStorm. I think they just released um, like their NX console version that's for WebStorm, which is my IDE of choice. That's actually has the same features as the VS Code one, and it's a huge productivity boost. So yeah, pretty much if you're serious about an application in the TypeScript world, you're gonna start with NX. So as I said before, that's exactly what I did. Then obviously Angular, its batteries included. I love that it comes with HTTP client. It comes with the router. It comes with, well, my favorite thing, dependency injection. It's so amazing to me having the dependency injection system that Angular provides you. Like I love it. I think it's incredibly powerful, and I wouldn't want to develop without it. And then another thing, if you think about developing, something you often forget is accessibility, and Angular it's just baked into the framework. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure a lot of you have actually like worked with the component development kit that is part of like Angular, powers Angular material too. It's amazing how it supports accessibility and all the tools it gives you. If you ever build your custom components, like make sure to check out the CDK. It's literally incredible. And that's the thing with Angular. If you build for everyone, you build for everyone with Angular, but you also build with everyone. I think the Angular team has shown over the last couple of weeks the amazing job they do giving people like a space to actually be part of this like Angular ecosystem. They listen to us, they give us feedback, they take out the time to really make sure that everyone understands the changes that are going to happen to, to Angular and V16, which are great. But they just enable us to do our jobs better and like build incredible community projects. So yeah, like I think for me, Angular is the framework of choice.